Wub wub, this is my intro. Wub wub. Welcome back, Guardians, to a Destiny 2 video and a talk about frames per second. Before we get into it, thank you so much for your support yesterday on that video and all the people who reached out. You guys are awesome. You make my life better. And I feel like I can really move forward with your guys' help. But anyway, the footage you're seeing in the background was given to me by DPJ. He went out to the Destiny 2 reveal and recorded some footage. And Activision and DPJ kindly let me use that footage on this video and on my channel. So massive shout outs to everybody involved. Let's talk about frames per second. This is a video I wanted to make the other day, but obviously with the things that have been going on recently, I just haven't had a chance to actually sit down and talk about it. So frames per second is like a hot button topic right now about, you know, why can't Destiny 2 be 60 frames per second? Why can't games be 60 frames per second? This is just Destiny DLC, etc, etc. And I see these kind of comments and, you know, I get kind of angry about it because frames per second actually does not change the actual gameplay of the game. It might make it look smoother and make it look a little bit more eye-pleasing, but it doesn't change the fundamental fun you have in that game. If you go back to the old days, things like Doom, there was nothing, there was no graphics, no FPS, but it was one of the most fun games you ever played. Destiny in its core is 30 frames per second. It's what we have played since day one. So the fact that this is 30 frames per second too is not that big of a deal in my opinion. Now, I play and have played plenty of games that are 60 frames per second. I am a PC player. I play Overwatch on the PC. I play things like Battlegrounds currently on the PC where I get frames way over 60 frames per second. And I am better at Destiny than I am at those games. I recently played the Quake Champions beta and that ran at ridiculous frame rate on the most ultra graphic setting that you can have. It was an awesome game. It felt amazing. You could see the difference in frame rate and graphics and such things, but it didn't make me a better player. And that is the thing that people, I think, want to say 60 frames per second will make you a better player because you can see things quicker, you can react quicker. Well, if you can react quicker at 60 frames per second, so can the other people too. If this imaginary skill level that comes with frame per second increases to 60 frames per second, the enemies are also going to increase in their quote-unquote skill level. So it actually changed nothing other than the fact that it's a little bit smoother to see and to visualize while you're playing. But I don't know about you, but when I'm playing, I am not looking directly at the graphics and frame rate, if that makes any sense. You know, I look at the map, I listen. Those are the things that help me get better in gaming, especially sound and listening. And it seems like Destiny 2 has really ramped up the immersion in sound. What I heard in the reveal stream and on all the footage that I've seen from people, the sound is absolutely incredible. Now, 60 frames per second, is it important? I guess, yeah, sure. It's a good thing to have if you can make your game reach that frame per second. But if you don't have that, especially with a game that we already know to be 30 frames per second, it's not that big of a deal that it's not 60 frames per second. Now, what is the actual legitimate reason that Destiny cannot reach 60 frames per second on current gen consoles? Well, most people look at things like Battlefield and, you know, things like Killzone and be like, those games got 60 frames per second. They have amazing graphics. Why can't Destiny? Well, it's not totally down to graphics. In your console, you have CPU and GPU. GPU is the graphics processor unit, which is the graphics that make the graphics. So most people think that that is the sole reason for frames per second, but it's not. It's about CPU, how fast your computer can process information. And unfortunately, current gen consoles just don't have the capabilities to run a game on Destiny's scale at 60 frames per second without absolutely messing it up and making it look terrible. And the only way I can think of how that works, I'm not an expert, don't get me wrong, but if you look at something like Battlefield, that is a server-to-server basis. So you go and join a game and a server, and then your console runs that server while you are in that server playing it. But Destiny is an active world that never stops. It's like always there, always running, always having public events coming in, always having people in shared zones, you know, things like that. It's always constantly going. Even though you're flying from orbit to patrol, that world is still there. That's why when you join, there's people already running around there. So your computer needs to be able to process that information consistently and constantly. That's the way I think that it works. Again, I'm no expert, but that would make sense as to why a game like Destiny cannot be run at a high frame rate per second, but something like Battlefield, where it's a server-to-server basis, can easily be ran at 60 frames per second. And that's why PC will have an uncapped frame rate, because PC has unlimited power depending on what you put into your PC. You could keep upgrading your PC over and over and over again, and it will keep getting more powerful and be able to handle the frame rate per second and improve the graphics and quality of what you visualize while you're running around. And that's just my opinion on it anyway. I'm excited for this game, even in 30 frames per second. I don't know about you, but looking at that reveal stream, it did not look that bad whatsoever. Now, DPJ released a strike, the strike that you're seeing in the background, in 60 frames per second. He took the footage he had and he converted it into 60 frames per second by doing some wizardry. Go and check it out. I'll link it in the video description. You will see the visual difference between 60 seconds and 30 frames per second, but it's not that big of a deal in my opinion. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Hit that like button if you're excited for Destiny 2. Because why not? Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. I've been Izzy. You guys have been awesome.